And so Renji and Rukia's life together comes to an end. Because of this, when Renji finds out that Rukia is going to be put to death, it kills him. He wants to be the kind of person who can save her, but he also can't let himself believe that someone of his lowly status could ever stand against something as impossible and monolithic as the Soul Society, and especially against his captain and Rukia's own brother, the massively powerful Byakuya. And that's why Ichigo's Soul Society torments Renji, because it forces him to confront that belief. And that is the emotional core of this battle. And so when Ichigo defeats Renji, it's Renji's eyes being open to the idea that he can make a difference. And even if they're...
What? You beat me, but my captain way stronger. What
you barely beat me.
What more difference could I possibly make?
It's only a tiny chance, it's worth taking that chance.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot more sense.
And it's that realization that allows him to switch sides and finally face off against Byakuya. This is what I love about the battles of Soul Society. Each fight has meaning, every fight has some emotional...
Ishida had no meaning against the Doctor.
...weight or reveal some new piece of
It does in hindsight. Because his dad's a doctor and he doesn't want to become a doctor.
Every fight has
and
some...
So he's just like, these are doctors. Doctor's bad. Got it.
Emotional weight or reveal some new piece of information. Even minor encounters like Chad versus Kyoraku demonstrate the ocean of power separating regular people and captains. And as a result...
Yeah, we already saw that in Kenpachi.
Mm-hmm. Ichigo's showdown with Kenpachi that immediately follows feels all the more...
Oh, that was later. My bad. You are correct, Wolf.
Ichigo's showdown with Kenpachi that immediately follows feels all the more desperate and terrifying, because we have the context to understand how frightening the prospect of facing a captain is.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Forcing Ichigo to overcome his own fear of death in order to move forward and save Rukia in one of the most violent showdowns of the series. Each fight serves a purpose, each fight tells a story, and serves as a link in the chain that moves the larger narrative forward. But it's in that larger narrative that begins to form around these fights Soul Society becomes one of my favorite pieces of shonen storytelling ever. As we come to know the 13 Court Guard, we start to notice that not all captains seem to trust each other. Some, like the softly spoken Aizen, suspect that something insidious is growing within the organization. Certain orders from the Central 46, basically the shadow government of Soul Society, don't seem to make sense. Like Rukia's execution being repeatedly pushed forward. And it seems to have something to do with the unsettling, snake-like Captain Ichimaru Gin, who seems to be taking a disturbing glee in Rukia's execution. But as Aizen grows closer to the truth, he warns his assistant Captain Momo, who may or may not be in love with him, that there is some danger within Soul Society, and that's when, boom, holy shit, Aizen ends up murdered the next morning, and you realize this is not just a simple rescue mission. Someone with the power to kill captains is behind a deeply fucked conspiracy taking over Soul Society, and it's so exciting. But that's when we discover, hey guys, I'm just gonna let you know that I'm about to spoil Soul Society, and it's 2 decades old and most of you have already watched it, but if you haven't and you like shonen, you should. It's fantastic.
And I've already watched it. Why are you giving such a summary for it? It's a very... You explained what hollows were.
Beautifully.
You just went, Gotai 13 are sort of like a shadow organization. Maybe explain them a little 13, bit more.
But the 42, Court 42, or whatever that shit was.
Whatever they were.
There's nothing to explain because we don't really... There's nothing there.
But if you haven't and you like shonen, you should. It's fantastic and it holds up beautifully, so you can skip here if you want to avoid spoilers. When Momo's friends enter the forbidden chamber of the Central 46, holy shit, they're all fucking dead.
Giving orders.
But then who's been given the orders? And oh my god, Aizen's still alive. What is happening? And then he stabs Momo, and she loved you, Aizen. She loved you. And it's revealed that the true villain of this entire fucking arc wasn't the evil Snake Man. It was the soft glasses boy. And so even when Ichigo fights all the way to the peak of Soul Society and defeats Byakuya, Rukia's brother and the personification of putting what society says is right over protecting the ones you love, it feels monumentous. Ichigo has overcome the impossible system. He's won. Until Aizen appears and everything Ichigo's learned, all the power he's gained, it is nothing in the face of this new enemy. And Aizen removes an ancient artifact in Rukia's body that this whole execution was just deployed to get, and who alongside Gin and Tosen disappears into the world of hollows as he attempts to ascend to the power of God.
Why didn't he just grab that shit?
I remember something about it needed to be extracted there or something.
No, it needed that device, but they broke that device. So he just...
There's an explanation, I'm sure. I do not have it, but I'm sure there's an explanation.
I can't be sure.
And man, it's fucking fantastic.
Yes.
The entire arc beautifully building to a shocking, satisfying climax, letting Ichigo overcome his own trauma by literally facing the gods of death themselves and saving someone he loves while overturning a corrupt system, while seamlessly revealing the true villain of Bleach, leading beautifully into the next major story arc and its pure shonen storytelling brilliance. And I only have 3 tiny issues with it. 1, Ichigo. He's kind of a reactionary character. 2, the world
It matters not.
building of the Soul Society is a little weak. This is a place where all
Big week.
Well, big week. Hold on, go back.
is kind of a reactionary character. 2, the world building of the Soul Society is a little weak. This is a place where all people of every culture, of every era, are all crammed together in one gigantic afterlife. But instead of expressing that through the world building, it feels like Kubo kind of just looked at feudal Japan and went, that. And 3, I'm gonna frame this in the form of a question that we'll come back to later, and that is, how does Ichigo win fights? These are all such minor issues that if we were talking about Soul Society by itself, I wouldn't even bring them up. But I do because they are the seeds to problems that will eventually grow throughout the series and have dramatic effects on later arcs. And where those seeds start to poke through the surface is in the next major arc, Hueco Mundo. After a few skirmishes with the Arrancar, Aizen's army of massively powerful hollow people and totally not furries, I swear to God they're not furries, the Hueco Mundo arc begins, and immediately we kind of have that same problem with world building. This place is basically hell, or at least a bad afterlife, and think of all the crazy ways that's been portrayed in media, but instead of that, we kind of just get a giant empty desert, and it's...
Yeah, that's fine. It's a desolate wasteland. Mm-hmm. What's the problem? Because it's not as good or as lush in its depravity as other series. So, it did its own way, and it's fine.
like, cool. At this point,
It's not meant to be cool. It's meant to be desolate. It's
Yeah.
meant to be a wasteland, and it accomplishes it.
it's still not that big an issue, but the much bigger problem with Hueco Mundo is it's kind of just Soul Society again. And I was a little general with this criticism last time around, so allow me to be more specific. Ichigo and his friends invade a land of extremely powerful death gods who are all part of a hierarchical organization in order to rescue their female friend who has been imprisoned for semi-mysterious reasons. They
Not for some mysterious reasons. Rukia was captured because she gave up her powers to a human, which is foreboding. And Orihime was captured because her power allows her to awaken this thing that Aizen needs.
Easy.
It's not mysterious. There's reasons, and they're different reasons.
imprisoned for semi-mysterious reasons. They immediately encounter a large enemy who they defeat with an overwhelming display of force before
Large enemy, that's really whatever. You shouldn't have even included that. That's big whatever.
enemy who they defeat with an overwhelming display of force before being split up and fighting their own individual
They split up for different reasons.
battles. Uryu fights a mad scientist who sacrifices his own minions. Chad is depicted as one of the most powerful members of the group before being squashed by an even more powerful enemy to demonstrate the danger.
Not depicted as one of the most powerful minions. He defeated a bum twice. That's nothing.
The opposing force. One of Ichigo's allies is a cute side character who eventually transforms into a sexy, powerful, fully grown woman who used to be part of the opposing force before switching sides.
Yeah, that's a real bad one.
Former enemies of Ichigo show up to help in the final stage of the battle, and Ichigo fights first a low-ranking enemy, then a wild middle-ranking enemy with a bestial fighting style, and finally,
Come on, no.
in order to save the girl, a massively powerful, stoic and cold high-ranking member of the enemy force who previously defeated him, and during this battle he loses control of his hollow side, goes berserk before finally regaining control and saving the day before...
No, he defeated Uki in that form and then went get the up because I didn't want it this way.
Aizen reveals that the kidnapping of the girl is only the small part of a much larger plan.
Yeah, it was stupid on the one on the right in Hueco Mundo because he went, I never even needed Orihime.
Yeah.
He absolutely needed Rukia. But Orihime was just like, I never needed your butt.
This is not general structural repetition, these are the same story beats, and it's maybe the first indication that Bleach is struggling a little with its long-term direction.
Unfortunately, that was only the first half, because after they rescue Orihime, the story wildly diverges from Soul Society. And then nothing follows the same structure of Bleach afterwards. So even there, it's kind of disingenuous, because really, that's only halfway through Hueco Mundo, because Hueco Mundo is so f***ing long. My God, what an arc.
And how would you have felt if, like, Chad was kidnapped? He couldn't use the female sidekick defense. And how would he feel if it was the first person that they fought was a little person as opposed to a big person? He couldn't use that. So he'd be like, okay, they first fight an opposing force. No matter what, you can make the comparisons. And you can force it if you want to make your narrative. But yeah, it's a lot of those were just like, hey, come on now, dude.
But worse, by being so similar to Soul Society, it shows you exactly what's missing from Hueco Mundo, and particularly in the Arrancar. The problem with the Arrancar is that they're never given the time to develop as characters the same way the Soul Reapers were. I can tell you
and yet it's so long of an arc.
Really?
What were you doing?
every captain, vice captain, and even some of the seated chairs of the 13 Corps Guard. I can tell you about their back...
No, we don't... in that arc, we don't know anything about the previous Kenpachi lady, the healer. Mm-hmm. We know nothing about her. You can't say that you know her.
Urahano?
Unahana?
Something like that.
Yeah. We don't know the backstory about, or really anything about the doctor other than he's crazy. Wolf Dude is just Wolf Dude. No, we got Wolf Dude. Mm-hmm. We got Blind Dude. He's a guy, a childhood friend. Byakuya, Rukia. We don't really know anything about Kenpachi other than he likes to fight.
Guard.
Yeah, we know enough about them to just go, okay, we got it. But yeah, some of them freaking Iran cars are just, ooh boy.
I can tell you about their backstories, their relationships, their motives, even the really unimportant little side people, because the series spent the time to tell you who these people were.
I don't think we got that there.
Now,
maybe we did. I can't be 100, but I can't be 100 either way.
That in mind, if you've seen Bleach, can you tell me anything about any of the characters on screen?
Okay,
right now?
That's bullshit because
really
they're bums. They're bums. That's like saying, can you tell me something about the prison guards in Soul Society?
Yeah, he showed the captains and just went, look, the captains, we know about them. And he showed these people instead of just going the Iran car, which those are the problems in and of itself. But he could have, this is very, again, disingenuous.
It's just a bunch of bums.
It's literal bums.
Their relationships, their goals.
But they're not part of the Espada. They're just bums.
Yeah. How about this guy or this...
That guy is a problem. Sanderwich is a problem.
This girl or... was this guy really in it? I watched this like 2 weeks ago. Is this
the black dude? That makes sense. There's a couple, again, like I said, a couple of them Moran cars is a big problem. But yeah, these are fodder people. Who cares? Move on.
actually a character? Oh, yeah, no, it is. That okay. This isn't to say there isn't any characterization, there is some, and what flashes we do get of the Urankar are really interesting. Noitra pointing out the hypocrisy of the Soul Reapers, Ulquiorra slowly developing a bond with Orihime, and Barragan hurling his axe at Aizen in one final act of defiance. These moments are great, but they're so brief, feeling more like supplemental information rather than being the motives driving the character's actions. With most of the Urankar, even some of the really important ones like Halle Bell, given little to no development at all. And it doesn't just make for less compelling characters.
It's so long, and they don't do anything with her. Why?
Or almost anybody else.
But critically has a dramatic effect on how Bleach's fights work. When I talk about fight scenes, I like to break them down into two narratives: emotional narratives and technical narratives. And to help explain this a little, think of a showdown from an anime as a game of chess. The emotional narrative is the story that's brought the two opposing players to play this game of chess. Their backstories, their journeys, their relationships, and what victory or defeat means to either one. In other words,
this is very bad because we don't know anything about Gaara in that point.
Yeah, but he's going, at least one of them we do know.
But then Gaara's just a wall at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it could have been anybody.
There's nothing wrong with a wall.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with a wall, but I would have shown something better. Something that you know the backstory about. I would have shown Naruto versus Gaara.
Okay, yeah, this makes less sense because that means as long as we know one person's, it can be good emotional narrative. And as long as it's a protag, you usually get that because we know what they went through to get here. Mm-hmm. So, let's see.
Emotional narrative is everything that happens off the chessboard, while the technical narrative is everything that happens on the chessboard, the physical story that unfolds through each character's actions, the logical progression of moves and counter moves that leads to one character checkmating another. To break this down in terms of an actual battle, let's take Frieza versus Goku. The emotional narrative here would be that Frieza is a horrible space racist who validates his own existence by inflicting pain and misery on anyone he deems weaker than he is. Goku...
Where's the emotional narrative there? What's that got to do with his backstory or the driving or anything? He's just a piece of
being a member of one of those supposedly inferior races, whose people have been genocided by Frieza, now fighting to prove that Frieza's power does not justify his actions. As for the technical narrative, I won't go through it all because it's a really long fight, but the final stages of this battle are the famous moment where Goku goes Super Saiyan, which lets him finally fight on even footing with Frieza.
No, he was so far above Frieza, it was ridiculous.
In turn growing more desperate, leading to him using his rather dangerous energy disc.
Wouldn't that be more emotional narrative than technical narrative? Yeah, no. Desperation, I guess you could go, I need to make a desperate move to checkmate this person.
But also, you could tie that into his emotional, he's so strong that he's never had a challenge, and now that he finally has a challenge, he's just doing stupid things.
The fight ending with Frieza's own attacks being turned against him. This is the logical progression of actions, the technical narrative that...
what about all that fluffing about for 80% of that fight at the second half? That Frieza fight, once he turned Super Saiyan, is so not good.
And he doesn't show the 100% of 100%.
Brings the fight to a close. As long as a fight scene has a strong emotional or technical narrative, it's probably going to be pretty entertaining, with great ones incorporating both. But I would say the strength of the battles in Soul...
So you just need either.
But if you got both, it's great.
You need a reason to fight or stuff happening in the fight, I guess.
There's no real emotional narrative in Darby versus Jotaro, but that fight is amazing.
That's where the technical comes in.
But it needs both to be great.
but the technical is so great that it overwhelms the emotional.
Society were in their emotional narratives, and you can see that in the battle with Renji. Look at the amount of storytelling that went into establishing who he is, why he was fighting, and how the outcome of that fight changed his future actions in that story. And the problem with the battles of Hueco Mundo is there is so much less character development. It means the battles lack that emotional storytelling that was so critical in Soul Society. And I'd even
No,
say
but you still got it. When Rukia fought the one that she fought, there was he had absorbed her past friend, so you got that.
Oh yeah, that was a terrible one where it's just like I'm me and blah blah blah.
Yeah, that was some good stuff. Coyote Stark did something.
You're gonna have to take your word on that one.
he did something. He did something all right. You know, we're a couple that were good. You got your Grimjar, you got your Ukioras.
Yeah.
Black bald head spiky dude, get him out of here. Noritora, Nuitora.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
He had whatever he had with Nell. There was some stuff there.
that
I
of
can't speak to the quality of it, but it was there.
the really big fights, like Ichigo versus Grimmjow. Now, I like Grimmjow, I like his swagger, I would let him buy me a drink, but my problem with his showdown with Ichigo is it lacks any kind of personal or emotional narrative.
Yeah, that's bullshit. He literally is almost turning against his group just to fight Ichigo.
Yeah. No, he literally did.
And he also saved Orihime just to go, I need you to fix Ichigo so we can fight. And he also had a past where it was just like, all my friends around me or the people that were around me all died, and I'm the last one standing. What are we talking about here? Even Orihime goes, oh, Ichigo just wants this fight.
That drives the conflict. We get a little backstory about how Grimmjow ate his old Hollow partners, which does set up a nice contrast with how he and Ichigo view relationships, but it doesn't escalate the personal conflict between Ichigo and Grimmjow in any
No, I remember. They asked him to eat him, and
Yes,
he
he
was
did.
reluctant.
Yes, he was. They went, you're the strongest one amongst us. You've got the best chance. Eat us and become even stronger. We're not going to make it in this world, so eat us and become stronger.
Just going, he ate his partners. That seems very malicious, and there was a big story to that, sir.
full way. And once Grimmjow is defeated, he just disappears from the story as if his only real purpose was as an obstacle for Ichigo to overcome. Yes,
I
I know.
mean, once he was defeated, he fought Ukiura, and then they left. What's he gonna do? Come into the human world and become a student?
Isn't that very much what happened in Soul Society with Renji and Byakuya?
Yeah.
He shows up for a cameo 300 chapters later, it doesn't matter. And compare that to the emotional narrative of Renji and Ichigo, and it's so much less substantial. I use the fight with Grimmjow as an example because it's actually one of the better encounters in Hueco Mundo, but the reality is that the vast majority of battles are way worse. Most feel like they exist in isolation,
Chad,
devoid of
that's
any
obvious.
meaningful personal narrative or the sense that
like
they're
the
part
doctor
of a
fight.
larger story.
It went
And this
on a little
leads
long.
to a second problem with Bleach's fights, and that is when you take the emotional narrative out of them, it exposes how simple and repetitive the technical narratives of Bleach's battles are. To show you what I mean here, let's take Uryu and let's look at how he wins his first 4 fights. He wins his battle with Jirobo by unveiling his brand new weapon, the Sanrei Glove. He wins his battle with Mairu by unveiling his brand new modification, the Let's Still. He wins his fight with Werner by unveiling his brand new weapon, the Ginrei Kojaku. And he wins his fight with Sanderwiki by unveiling his brand new weapon, the Seilei Shinder. I'm not criticizing any of these fights individually, but you can start to see a pattern here.
Pause.
What's the problem?
The first 2 fights, this was really the first time that he had to get serious, so of course he's going to unveil something new. When he fought the Doctor, again, that's another thing where he's like, I gotta go all out, so of course he's going to unveil his newest power.
And he got rid of his Quincy powers for it.
Then when they went into Hueco Mundo, they had trained for a bit, so of course he's gonna have something new, and he's gonna have a new all-out attack. There's nothing wrong with that.
So how did Ichigo win his battles? He learned Shikai, he learned Bankai, like he learned his sword's name. Isn't that like all of his first fights as well? Isn't it structurally basically the same? Here comes my new attack, new villain. What's the problem?
Yeah, that's very unfair.
Each one of Ryu's fights ends with him introducing a brand new element the audience has no prior knowledge of, and it's that.
No, we see him put on that glove, which is the first two fights, and going, well, I can't use this ever. And that fourth one at the bottom wasn't really a new weapon. Old girl went, well, come at me with your sword. And he goes, well, Quincy's only used bows. What are you talking about? And it's a bow. What are you talking about?
New elements that solves the conflict. In stage writing, this is known as Deus Ex Machina.
No, that's not a Deus Ex Machina. If you want to break it down like that, then all shonen is going to be Deus Ex Machina. Luffy uses Gum Storm against Croc, and then Golden Bell against Inaru, and then your second and third against Lucci, and then Nightmare Luffy against
Golden Bell isn't really.
Okay, let's Nightmare Luffy. And you can just keep and going.
Unless they explicitly turn to the camera and go, here comes this. Right before they use it, they have to go, okay, flashback time. Here's me training it. Here's me developing it. And now here we go. Otherwise, it has to be. But yeah, that is very.
The first two are just completely incorrect. And the other one is just, well, it's my bow. It's just a different version of my bow.
An unexpected power or event saving a seemingly hopeless situation.
The first one was not hopeless. He wiped the floor with that dude. The second one, he just got super mad at old dude and went, here comes my Quincy powers. And it was known that he put it on, and we did know that there were ramifications for it. What are you talking about? The true Deus Ex is beating Yuha Bach with that thing his dad threw down, like, this is the thing to defeat Yuha Bach. A true Deus Ex is in God Slayer when they could not be a literal god.
Here it is.
You've always had this. Do it now.
Family of God Slayers. Isn't that a god right there? Yes, it is. Now, convenient that I'm here right now and he's here right now.
Those are Deus Ex, not unexpected powers in shonen. Otherwise, JoJo's is just an escalating version of complete Deus Exes at all times. Bruno has never used his zipper like that.
Deus Ex.
Deus Ex Machina.
But this is shonen, so I'm gonna call it the Starfinger problem.
Starfinger was complete bush.
Starfinger is garbage.
He has never used it before nor since.
He used it one other time.
When?
I can't remember when. I think it was. I'm thinking. He used it another time.
Are you really about to look this up now?
Yes, I am. I have to.
Is an ability from Stardust Crusaders when, in order to get Jotaro out of danger, Star Platinum is given the rather strange ability of extending his fingers and just stabbing people from far away. The issue I have with this is that Jotaro's Star Platinum...
He used it in Deep Blue Moon, and he also used it in Strength.
Ugh, really?
Unless I'm mistaken. That might have been the No, he did use it in Strength.
Is a short-range, high-damage stand, meaning Jotaro's problem he must overcome in his battles is how to close the distance between his opponents and deliver as much damage as possible. And to do this, he'll need to carefully observe and understand the abilities of his opponents and exploit the weaknesses of those abilities while they try and do the same to him. This is the kind of psychological, tactical battle that would come to define JoJo. and how a series that is 95% male models shooting ghosts at each other can stay so compelling, because it leads the viewer on this wild ride of moves, counter moves, and counters to those counters, thereby creating a strong technical narrative that leads the viewer through fights. The problem with Starfinger is it allows Jotaro to cheat the short-range limitations of Star Platinum, bypassing the entire narrative of the fight, robbing the audience of that story. And Bleach is full of Starfingers. Now, granted, it is not the only shonen series guilty of this, but it does do it a lot.
All shonen are guilty of it, if you want to break it down in such terms.
For example, Kenpachi defeats Noitara by unveiling his brand new double-handed...
Trash.
But that's also not fair, because he goes, I should probably have a way to get stronger in actual sword techniques. And they show him learning it.
technique. Chad beats his first major enemy by growing a brand new demon arm, and his second by growing a second brand new demon arm. Yoriichi defeats...
Yeah, if he did it one time, why can't he do it again? Yeah. We don't know the structure of Chad's power, so...
We've never been explained it. So he just has a big demon arm, and he's never gone, I can only do this one demon arm.
Siphon by unveiling her brand new Shunko. Rukia defeats...
This was her first fight.
Yeah, I don't know what you want from that.
Roy by unveiling her Shikai.
Yeah, she has one. She's a good...
She unveiled it. What's the problem?
Yumachika defeats Charlotte by revealing his Shikai.
He had his Shikai the whole time. They hid it. They hid that in the Bankai just so they could... I can't remember what the reason was.
He didn't want to move up in the ranks.
Sure, whatever. But yeah, he always had it.
He defeats Findor by unveiling...
Wait, is he saying that we know that these people have Shikais?
We just don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And it's hard to know what a Quincy's power is because we only know of one Quincy. So who knows what they can break out and can't.
His Shikai. Hisagi defeats Findor by unveiling his Shikai. Toshiro survives Halle Bell by unveiling his Bankai.
Yes, he knows Bankai and he uses it.
They know Shikai and use it.
If Zoro all the time was using two swords and then go, okay, serious enemy, time to break out my third sword, is that Deus Ex Machina? It's just silly.
We know he has 3 swords.
Yes.
Defeats this guy by unveiling his Bankai. Do you see what I am saying? Well, tough, we're not done. Later on in the...
Yeah, we know that Shinigami can have Shikais and Bankais. You learned Bankai? Cool. You learned Shikai? Cool.
Our heroes are being attacked by an enemy. He uses the ability...
Yeah, this is complete nonsense.
And Nana reveals her Shikai, which just so happens to be Reflect God's Light.
Yes, this is the one you should look 100%. At and go, they had no way to beat this person. And everybody else's Shinkai and Bankai were just not working. They could not beat him. But I have this sword that only purpose is to beat people like him. That's your Deus Ex Starfinger bush.
Ridiculous.
And there's even an entire sub-arc where just as all hope is lost, the Soul Reapers have a final hour reveal where it turns out they were all under a self-imposed power limitation, which once released lets them Deus Ex Machina their way to victory.
No, they didn't Deus Ex Machina. Their power, they explained this. Their power was held within because if they release too much of their power and just get free reign, it can affect the living world. So when they go into the living world, they all have this limiter. But in this battle, they were allowed to release that limiter. So they were allowed to unleash their full power, which they always have in Soul Society. They just don't have in the living world. It's not a Deus Ex. It's just a limiter. I'm not as strong in this world because I am limited. Oh, the captain said I can release my limit? That's cool. Now I can fight at full strength. Not more than full strength. Full strength.
I could keep going, but the point is that each encounter ends with something the audience has
no that's garbage.
Prior knowledge of solving the conflict.
We have prior knowledge of Shikai and Bankai. We know they exist. And now this character says, I can use that. Cool.
bypassing the technical narrative, meaning the strategy or psychology of these fights don't matter, because inevitably there will always be a final hour unexpected power or event that will save the seemingly hopeless situation. And there are actual instances of characters using real strategy in Bleach, like Ushoda trapping Baragon in a barrier so he can't avoid Soifon's Bankai, and moments like this are the hypest of the entire series, but they are few and far between.
No, one of the hypest fights is Ichigo versus Kenpachi, where he uses his we don't know abilities. Or how about Ichigo versus in Byakuya, where they both use their I don't know what this ability is ability.
Wait a second.
And then he was talking about how good it was in Soul Society when you see these people break out they
I was just about to say that. I'm like, how do I word this correctly? Because Ichigo just goes Bankai against Byakuya, and that's there.